Hello and welcome back to the Fracking Farmhouse, where we have jelly and a snow dome. I normally try and be very upbeat on the Fracking Farmhouse because we've got to remain positive in these very difficult times, but I must admit last Friday was the worst. Last Friday was an awful day. And it was one of those days at work. I work outside, I've worked in the same place for 20 years, and it was windy as hell. And it was windy as hell for the fifth day in a row. Some people don't understand climate change. I think it has to be temperature. And what you think about what is temperature? And temperature is actually the shaking of molecules, the particles we have. And when you heat up something like a planet, now we've heated, by burning fossil fuels, we've heated this planet up 1 degree. That doesn't sound a lot, does it? But 1 degree, a whole planet, that's a lot of energy. And when you get that energy trapped in, like this snow dome, wiggles it about. So you get extremes of weather, and you get this thing, and like we're used to getting gales in the autumn because the summer has heated up the system. But in spring, just before the spring equinox, a whole week of Atlantic storm after Atlantic storm, it was, and it blows you out and it gets you down and it just gets your mood down because it's a harbinger of what is to come. Climate change is upon us. It's happening now. But I had hope, and it's like a terrible thing, hope. It's like supporting England just before a World Cup. Don't have hope. But I had hope because that day the kids had called a climate strike. And so after this day of global warming weather, it felt like, I thought, right, let's go and switch the news on and see these hopeful kids in the street, trying to change for the future. And I switched on, and somebody halfway around the world with a gun had shot 50 people who didn't have guns. And it's just bad. It's just bad. And I'm not going to glorify it by going on about it. But the news did. The news went on about it and on about it and on about it and on about it. And that drew me down even further, And it was like celebrating hate instead of focusing on hope. And it went on for ages. And then I went back to the 10 o'clock news on the BBC, and they did hate for well over half the programme. But then it did Brexit, then another little story. Then it reported on a car crash in which a couple of kids were killed in Wolverhampton. That's a tragedy for that family. But is this more important than 1.2 million kids around the world trying to get the politicians to change? Now, in 2015, the politicians signed the Paris Climate Agreement to try and limit global warming to 2 degrees. That's 3 years ago, and they have done a diddly squat about it since. Right? They've gone back to, how are we doing? Oh, actually, we're on course for 3 degrees of warming. This will be catastrophic. It's not just windy days. We're talking, cities flooded. We're talking wildfires, extreme weather. It's going to really affect these kids' futures. And we think that the youth rising up and striking is less important than a car crash in Wolverhampton. What is happening? That's what really depressed me. Not the mindless killings in New Zealand, but the way that the hope that the kids were generating was ignored. Fracking, what's all this got to do with fracking? The reason I've been trying so hard against fracking is not because they want to drill a mile away. It is, but it isn't. And it's not for them, it's climate change. I think because every time a fossil fuel company has said, we can get more oil or gas, everyone's just said, yeah, okay, do it. Fracking is a horrible technique which pollutes the air and the water around it. Go on, gels off you. And they're even contemplating doing that just because they say we can make some money. It will fry the planet. It will make our children's lives unacceptable. Are we prepared to do that? Are we prepared to sacrifice our kids' futures so we can have more now? And I really believe that fracking is where it will stop, because the movement, the public movement that's come around fracking is halting in its tracks. And I think it would be the first thing that really tells the fossil fuel companies, it's working with coal. We've shut coal, open cast coal mines and no longer happening in this country, So there is some coal going to be left in the ground. But if we're going to save the planet, we have to leave oil in the ground, we have to leave gas in the ground. And I believe fracking is where it will stop. And I believe the anti-fracking campaign runs alongside the kids. But I don't want to be too down. There is, it got some coverage in the newspaper, and Michael Gove, we've got to go to Michael Gove for hope. But Michael Gove says, collective action of the kind you're championing can make a difference. Right? This is a government that axed the subsidies for renewable energies, that opted for fracking. It says, together we can beat climate change. It will require us to change the way in which our energy is generated. Right, no more fossil fuel energy, renewable energy. Change the way in which our homes are built. Yeah, God, if they hadn't changed the rules in 2016, they would have ruled out fossil fuel heated homes. But they changed the rule to carry on. But and change the way in which our land is managed and farming operates. Yes. So even that one day of action did get a government minister to admit they have to change. Now, these are just words because he's a politician. The kids have got to keep going. We've got to keep going. We've got one planet. And although the BBC didn't cover it, there was a company called Real News, and they filmed it. And I want to leave this week's Fracking Farmhouse to the kids to say what needs doing, because they know we don't need fracking. We don't need fracking. We've got to save this planet for them. Thanks for watching.
My name is Greta Thunberg. I am 15 years old and I'm from Sweden. I speak on behalf of Climate Justice Now. Many people say that Sweden is just a small country and it doesn't matter what we do. But I've learned that you are never too small to make a difference. And if a few children can get headlines all over the world just by not going to school, then imagine what we could all do together if we really wanted to. But to do that, we have to speak clearly, no matter how uncomfortable that may be. You only speak of green, eternal economic growth because you are too scared of being unpopular. You only talk about moving forward with the same bad ideas that got us into this mess, even when the only sensible thing to do is pull the emergency brake. You are not mature enough to tell it like it is. Even that burden you leave to us children. But I don't care about being popular. I care about climate justice and a living planet. Our civilization is being sacrificed for the opportunity of a very small number of people to continue making enormous amounts of money. Our biosphere is being sacrificed so that rich people in countries like mine can live in luxury. It is the sufferings of the many which pay for the luxuries of the few. The year 2078, I will celebrate my 75th birthday. If I have children, maybe they will spend that day with me. Maybe they will ask me about you. Maybe they will ask why you didn't do anything while there still was time to act. You say you love your children above all else, and yet you are stealing their future in front of their very eyes. Until you start focusing on what needs to be done, rather than what is politically possible, there is no hope. We cannot solve a crisis without treating it as a crisis. We need to keep the fossil fuels in the ground, and we need to focus on equity. And if solutions within this system are so impossible to find, then maybe we should change the system itself. We have not come here to beg world leaders to care. You have ignored us in the past, and you will ignore us again. We have run out of excuses, and we are running out of time. We have come here to let you know that change is coming, whether you like it or not. The real power belongs to the people. Thank you.
We, the youth, are deeply concerned about our future. Humanity is currently causing the 6th mass extinction of species, and the global climate system is at the brink of a catastrophic crisis.
IPCC report gave us 11 years to make unprecedented action. That report wasn't a caution, it was a deadline. It was a deadline saying if we do not act by then, I and my entire generation will not have a future.
My kids, my grandchildren will be living in a polluted world, so yes, there is a sense of urgency.
The youth can change the future!
Obligations. I will no longer be classed as a minor and will be legally responsible for my actions. And yet the people inside that building who have been over 18